Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wimbledon wrap up, a bonus episode of Tennis Weekly following our Wimbledon daily coverage brought to you by Babolat. Today, we're going to be wrapping up our experience of the championship. So, what does that mean? Well, it means for this episode, we're going to be covering our high moments, our low moments, our surprising moments of the championships, as well as dishing out some Tennis Weekly awards with some tournament reflections. Peak Pit Pleasant Surprise is making a return. Yeah, there's going to be lots and lots to cover, and I'm quite interested to see what all of our answers are.
Yes, it's going to be interesting, I think, what we might bring out the bag. Some niche responses.
We're
maybe.
definitely trying
Let's
harder
see.
with these, I think, to try and surprise each other. Best match, and we're looking at like the junior girls singles qualifying rounds.
Mimi Zhu.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we're not going quite that deep, but I think after 2 weeks of intense kind of being at Wimbledon, podcasting, it's almost like you got to, your brain's a bit tired and you're like, what happened 2 weeks ago?
Happened?
I can't
Yeah.
remember. I've forgotten all matches. So let's go straight into our first category, our first award, so to speak. Best match of the tournament. When I was trying to think, I was like, oh my gosh, I've forgotten all matches that ever happened.
Except the
Because,
finals.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming, except the final was very recent. That's all I can remember. But what have you both got? I'm going to come to both of you first. Chris, what's been your best match of the tournament? Who would you give it to? What two players tantalized you?
Well, I'm actually going for something that hopefully you haven't picked, but maybe might please Kim slightly, minus the result. But I'm going for Sonego Nakashima. That was pretty epic in the third round.
Yes.
Ended on a fifth set tiebreak. A little bit of heartbreak for you, Kim, as a Nakashima fan, but that one was particularly good. And it was right by where the media balcony is. So we actually got to watch quite a lot of that. Just pop in, see what was happening. It did go on a while, though. So probably I'd say if I had to go for the one that I was in full attendance for, and not to rub salt into the wound, Joel, but it would be Anisimova Sabalenka. That was fantastic. And for some odd reason, I had a really good seat for that, which I can't fathom. But that was particularly good. And I think that's the women's match I'm going to remember most.
I remember we had some nice gin and tonics watching Nakashima on the balcony.
We
there,
did.
but,
Thank you, Sip Smith, for that complimentary.
Soften the blow of Nakashima losing. He should have won that match. He was breaks up in all the sets he lost. But hey ho, Joel, what was your best match?
Well, I'm also going for a ladies' match. Raducanu versus Sabalenka on centre court. It was just like a fantastic atmosphere, great spotlight, great showcase of women's tennis. I always love seeing what Brits can do against kind of quality opponents, and there's no greater quality, I think, on the women's tour. Certainly one of the very, very best in Arena Sabalenka. So to kind of be watching that from the hill, I mean, it was just fantastic. Just such a great atmosphere, and that would be my best match. I'm just a little bit annoyed with the outcome.
On court, that was great. I think that was the loudest I've ever heard centre court, wasn't it? It was something else. I also watched that from the Southern Village, and it was great just seeing the whole of the British public just like uniting. And I saw that before I went
centre
in.
court just sounded so loud from where I was.
Move over US Open, right?
Yeah, it was electric. I think that was, the best night session of the tournament. We had a few, but that was prime time Friday night, wasn't it? So fantastic stuff there. I've gone slightly different with mine, not in the sense of a competitive match, but just the women's final for the sort of
Sorry, Kim.
sense of history.
Is this rage bait? The best match of the tournament was a double bagel.
I went for the sort of historic element. It's the first time we've had this since 1911 at Wimbledon. And, Iga's dominance, her stepping up, obviously not from an Anisimova perspective, but just for the sheer unexpectedness of it. I mean, I did expect Iga could maybe dominate, but I never expected a double bagel. It's the first time I've ever seen that in my lifetime in a Grand Slam final. So for me, it was, I guess, most memorable.
Okay.
But in terms of
that's an interesting interpretation,
yes.
Kim. I thought you'd go for one of your favorites, like a Samsonova, a Jessica Busas Monero against Yastremska. That's more your normal bag.
I have to say, from a men's side, I really enjoyed watching the first set in particular of Dan Evans against Novak Djokovic.
You've gone for that was not a competitive, two uncompetitive matches.
Tim, your definition of best match is
yes.
One-sided. Yeah.
Well, I'm Dan Evans, British underdog against the legend of the game on centre court. It was really good all court grass court tennis for that first set. Evans trying to cling on. And I was obviously having a moment that day. I really enjoyed
Well,
it.
I think listeners, I mean, bear with us because Kim's biggest upset might also be pretty wild.
Well, moving on to biggest upset. Yeah, I will tell you what I've got in just a second. But Chris, what have you got for your biggest upset of Wimbledon?
Well, we have to mention, Coco Gauff in that space. I think that was an upset. I don't think many of us thought necessarily first round that would be happening, but Yastremska's a tough customer. So it's not necessarily the biggest upset. So for me, the one where my jaw sort of hit the floor was Pegula Concharetto, because Pegula had just won a title and she actually had beaten now the eventual Wimbledon champion in that final. So hindsight's a wonderful thing,
Crazy.
but that is mad, that result, considering this was one where we were thinking if Sabalenka made the final, the American prophecy of losing to an American in every final, Pegula was the person we had kind of that card marked for. So I was very shocked by that result, but again, a nod to Goff because I didn't think as a competitor it would necessarily work out like that for her.
Yes, neither of them were the Americans that kind of showed up really and went deep. Joel, what about yourself? Biggest upset?
Well, for me, biggest upset was Grigor Dimitrov versus Jannik. Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry, I
What?
thought. Sorry, no.
The
Wait,
upset that never was.
Yeah.
The biggest upset that never was. Yeah, sadly, but it sounds a bit sad actually. I feel like, I say, Dimitrov was on course maybe to take that title.
But
But
was it an
go.
upset, Joel, if he has retired from the last 5 slams now? It feels like that's actually kind of par for the course for him.
Yeah, I know. Sad times. So anyway, I've gone for Cilic versus Draper.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Round 2.
That was a big surprise.
Because I was expecting Draper to go a lot further. I know Cilic has got a lot of pedigree on a grass court. He won a challenger in the build-up, but still, this was a big shock for someone who had a lot of expectation on them.
Yes, for sure. And, it wasn't Bublik that was the one we thought Jack Draper might struggle with. It was Cilic. And talking of Bublik, I've got his match against Jaume Munar as my biggest upset.
There's no predicting Kim on this episode.
I've gone rogue. Well, Bublik had just won Halle, he was coming
true.
in. We all thought he was at least going to get to that, third round, I think, with Draper. But it wasn't the case. Jaume Munar, who's been in some good form, got the better of him in 5 sets. So I thought that was fantastic for Munar. And also I had earmarked Clara Tauson against Rybakina because, I think myself and Joel, we both had Rybakina as our winner.
You did. I forgot about that.
Coming in with some good form. Tauson had gone 3 sets with Watson in the first round. So I wasn't really expecting this, but yeah.
That's an upset, no? Watson not beating Tauson. Maybe you could have put that one in. But when we do these things, it does just make me think, actually, Siegman was really good against Sabalenka. I enjoyed that one for best match. Yes. So I'm popping back to then pop forward again. But I mean, that was fantastic.
It was. And that was almost another upset, potentially. So, yeah. Most room for improvement is our next category. So which player do you think really wasn't quite cutting the mustard and really needs to work on something? Chris, coming to you.
Well, I think he's kind of said this himself, so hopefully this won't be too controversial. But Jack Draper, he kind of said like he's not very good on grass, which was a bit of a shock to me in press afterwards. And that result
still
obviously
not gone past round 2.
I mean, that's mad considering, and he described himself as like a 6'4" lefty with a big serve, which traditionally would do pretty well on grass. So I'm hoping that the room for improvement was very much recognized this year, and maybe he'll kind of gear his season up a little bit more to focus on grass rather than the clay, because it feels like he naturally could be great. So I'm not coming for you, Jack Draper. I'm actually just recognizing what you already identified.
Yeah, I'm going to duck in here, and I've gone for another Brit as well. Jacob Fernley. He was up against João Fonseca in the first round on court 1, and he really didn't bring his A game, and he just didn't really show up. And I think we saw that as well at the French with Norrie when they played each other. I don't know. I feel like he's not able to play the big courts. Is he a big match player? I've got question marks. I mean, he did all right at Queens, but I was expecting more from him. I was expecting that match with Fonseca to be much closer.
That's quite fair.
And
Joel,
I think he needs to give a bit more.
I'm surprised you didn't put Jarry Norrie as your match for the tournament. I keep going back to this, but memories are flooding back to me.
Yeah,
well,
that was a classic.
Norrie Jarry does kind of come up at some point.
Okay, good. Okay.
So we are waiting. But in terms of most room for improvement, I've also got Coco Gauff, and Coco Gauff's grass game particularly. She's so good on clay, but there's definitely so much for her to do with. I think it just requires just a big old reset, because it doesn't feel like she has the time or the right setup really to kind of get the most from her game on a grass court. So I'm going Coco Gauff.
Nice. Yeah, totally agree with that one. Okay, next category, biggest surprise of the tournament. Chris.
Well, I've got one serious one and not so serious one. My biggest surprise is that Sabalenka kept it together in press. She also kept it together on the court. We didn't see any crazy outbursts from her. The press conference was handled. She gave us nothing in press to go on, really. People still found some headlines, but they weren't anywhere near those headlines from Coco Gauff. So that was a surprise to me that she has kind of improved so much in that time. Those books she read in Mykonos clearly did work. My other big surprise is the redemption arc for Iga, because in Paris and in the clay season, none of us would have thought this was happening. We actually counted her out for Wimbledon. I mean, at our own peril, because she won it, and she won it in emphatic style. So I think for me, I am surprised by that, but I think it's definitely a case that I will not be surprised if she does something against the odds in the future.
Absolutely. And Joel, what about your biggest surprise?
Well, one is actually a genuine surprise. Fabio Fognini just all of a sudden announcing his retirement.
You were mid-lunch, weren't
I was
you?
like mid-lunch, and the tannoy system was Fabio Fognini is gone to the media theatre, and I was like, oh,
Is he lost?
What's that about? But also just sort of entwined with that, him pushing Alcaraz to 5 sets in round 1, I think certainly shook a lot of people, including myself. But I want to also add, from a British point of view, Ollie Tarvit getting to round 2. One of the stories of the first week. I mean, this guy came through qualifying, hadn't played like a pro tour match, really kind of the stuff of dreams, to go on and face Alcaraz and give him a pretty good going in round 2. So yeah, Ollie Tarvit.
Yeah, I loved that whole storyline, the narrative around Tarvit. I can't wait to see what he does when he's finished his degree and he's back at Wimbledon.
And how he spends that money. Did he manage to balance the books?
Yes. How good was his accountant that he hired? Yeah, let's wait
balance
and see.
the books for me.
Expenses for a jet.
Well, I also thought Cartal getting to the 4th round was fantastic for British women's tennis. Obviously getting that upset against Ostapenko and then backing that up. And yeah, doing pretty well against Pavlyuchenkova. So definitely she's been maybe my biggest surprise, although she did get to the 3rd round last year, but just fantastic. She was able to go the deepest here out of the British girls. And Solana Sierra, lucky loser, going all the way as well to the 4th round. Who saw that one coming? I certainly didn't. Same with Laura Siegmund. So yeah, surprises galore, I think, especially with all the seeds going out so early. The most seeds in slam history, I think, for a long time. So it's been, it was an interesting first few days, dropping like flies. But we do now have to think ahead to the US Open swing, all the warm-up events on the hard courts. Who are your ones to watch based on what you've seen at Wimbledon? Who do you think is going to be in good form and springing some more surprises, perhaps, over the course of the hard courts? Chris?
I will kick us off. Unsurprisingly, I'm very much looking for Iga to do something big. I don't like Iga being at number 3. I do like this Sabalenka, Gauff, Swiatek like rivalry. I want to see that one play out, and I want to see Iga kind of close the gap a little bit, potentially on Sabalenka. So very much watching her. And then I've gone quite predictable. Bencic made a semi-final. Was that just a case of a great draw, or can she kind of keep going? Because it feels like her trajectory since coming back has been fantastic. And then Fritz really surprised me the way that he was able to take on Alcaraz and almost push that one to a 5th. So they're probably the players that I'm going to be keeping my eye on the most. And then maybe Cam Norrie doing something. He seems like he's back at the big time. And 4th round in a quarterfinal as an unseeded player. Let's hope he's seeded at the US Open.
Absolutely. And Joel, do you agree? Have you got any more for the list?
Yeah, I've got Taylor Fritz, because he reached the final of the US Open last year. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up, particularly because this has been no Grand Slam winner in the men's from America for so long. And the US Open does tend to have some sort of rogue results from time to time. So Fritz. I've also got Raducanu.
Right. Okay.
Really, I'm just really intrigued to see. I just was so excited by that defeat to Sabalenka that I'm hoping that she can kind of kick on on courts that I feel have a lot of, a special place for her, particularly obviously with that US Open win. So Raducanu, and I've got Sabalenka as well. It's hard not to kind of think about Sabalenka in terms of that revenge story, the revenge mission, all these Americans defeating me at Grand Slams. How's she going to react when she gets to go over there?
Absolutely. I've also got Fritz, I think Raducanu as well. Can't not agree with you guys there. I've got also in addition Flavio Caboli, who obviously reached the quarters and did fairly well against Djokovic. How's he going to fare on the hardcourt swing? You know, he's done pretty well on grass, so he out of the blue for me. So looking forward to seeing more from him. Also curious how Sonego Cartel pushes on from here. Can she, back up her good form at Wimbledon? And I have to mention her, Jessica Bouzas Monero. What will she bring?
Your gal.
Yeah, absolutely. She's had 2 good Wimbledons. I don't want her to just specialize on the grass. I want her to kick on. So some interesting names to look out for, and I can't wait. Wimbledon's just recently ended, but I'm very much looking forward to the next phase of the tennis year. We do also have some more categories, our peak hits and pleasant surprises, which are more maybe personal moments as well, thrown in, as well as what happened on and off court. So let's start with our peak moments from Wimbledon 2025. Joel, I'm going to come to you first.
Chris spoke about the Nori Jarry match earlier. Maybe I should have had it in one of the best matches I watched live. The thing I wanted to call out specifically, though, from that match that I loved, because I love a little bit of aggro, the handshake, non-handshake, hug, finger pointing, just generally everything that happened after match point in that match, because it got very, very spicy, and I just sort of loved watching it kind of play out on court one. So really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed Iga Swiatek just stealing like a million towels from Wimbledon and getting away with it. I've got a lot of time for that. This sort of
we approve of theft.
Yes,
that's what we're saying.
Towel thievery. I feel like you deserve. She deserves it. She can do what she wants.
Well, now she's a member. Surely she's allowed unlimited towels. Yes. Whenever she should just go and practice there whenever
it should be in a contract. Maybe it's in a contract. She's checking it as a Wimbledon member.
Like a presidential pardon. If you're in the club, you can't get done for it.
Well, my favourite moment, and one of them, not my only favourite moment, but was when she shushed the camera when it was like clearly filming her putting a towel into her bag. I thought that was cheek that I was there for, and I loved it. That was, right up there for me. Also, Pericard's fastest serve of the tournament, 153 in like the first game of this first round against Taylor Fritz. I was there live courtside for that, and I loved Taylor Fritz's reaction and his face in that game when he was just getting blasted by these massive serves. He was kind of just like, what on earth am I supposed to do? And almost laughing about it. I thought that was really like good humored in how he responded. And obviously he got the win in the end. So they were my 2, I think, highlights for me. But generally, I think, really solid Wimbledon. Lots I could be mentioning. Chris, what about yourself?
Well, I mean, Kim, mine actually does refer to you, because there was a moment when Tennis Weekly HQ was an Airbnb that we were both staying in Putney. And there's never a dull moment. We didn't have any dull moments there, because one thing I do have to say, this still tickles me to this day, is when Kim said she was going to tuck herself in after a late night recording, and that involved watching highlights of Charli XCX at Glastonbury at midnight. And I just think, that's not for me. It's not my wind down hour. No. Hearing, some of those classics being blasting out from your room.
I hope
12.
I didn't keep you up, but right, no. I was just wanting to keep abreast with all the sort of, latest in the world
Finger
of music,
on the pulse with culture.
But
that's obviously off the court. When it was on the court, I think day one was actually really, really fun, and the first few days. So I loved the fact that we had those late nights on the first few days, and we had Fritz and Zverev were playing, both of them late. You could swap between the courts. It was all going on, and it felt like Wimbledon really got going to the point where like week one felt like a full tournament. So for me, there was a moment like watching Djokovic under the roof, where I felt like, Wimbledon's going. Round one is in full swing. This is what Wimbledon's all about. So that was one of those moments where you're like, this is why we do what we do, and this is why why we love it so much. Watching the greatest of all time under the roof at Wimbledon, winning his first round match. Stunning.
Well, not everything was perfect. We did have some pit moments. Joel, what would you say is your kind of low light of the fortnight?
I've got a few. Match wise, I still have to bring it out. Swiatek versus Bencic.
That really let you down.
I was there for. I'm still.
Remember, you got two more games in the final. You should be happy with that.
But it was still a bit
hour
of
and 17 was great.
It was still a bit of a letdown. But I mean, in context of the final, maybe got a bit of value for money there, perhaps. I will also say electronic line calling. I think it was not. It was not good.
That was rough.
Tournament. It wasn't at 100%, and I don't think even if it's 80% there, that's good enough for Wimbledon. And it, being implemented when there's been no issues, I think, in the past with like the lines people. So I'd say there's definitely a big room for improvement there. And just a personal one as well. I was walking around the grounds thinking, I've got my lanyard on, and I belong here. I'm part of the media family at Wimbledon. And a general fan came up to me and asked me where the smoking area was. So
did they ask you for a Rizzler? No, just
they think you look like you would know.
A vape?
I did not actually know. I did not actually know. Is there a smoking area at Wimbledon?
Maybe we check the lanyard and we can get back to them.
Yeah, so
I think it's a non-smoking venue.
I don't think you can smoke. I think that's
I politely said I'm not sure and walked off, but I thought, yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Well,
you look official. Maybe that's why with the lanyard on.
Yeah,
Joel.
very true. Very true.
I struggled with working out what my pit was. I kind of almost feel like the men's final was a bit of a low light because I was expecting, epics. But I think that was, being realistic, like we discussed in our men's final catch up, it was never going to live up to Paris. So I feel like it's a bit harsh to say that's low light. I did also, there was a terrible moment in press where Cam Norrie was asked if he was dating Emma Raducanu.
Oof.
That was, I think, a particularly rubbish
excruciating to listen to that.
Painful.
Yeah. He's not, listeners.
He's not. Yeah, he's, I think, happily with someone, but he batted that away. And yeah, it just was not the time and place, not appropriate. So that, I think, should hopefully not occur again. But yeah, that whole kind of diving into players' personal lives, like there's a time and a place, isn't there? Chris, what about yourself?
And that time and a place is only Carlos Alcaraz and Emma Raducanu, listeners. That's the only time we can do it. And that's allowed. No, definitely not. But Kim, I love the fact that your pit has been the men's final and your best match was the women's final. So you really have
I sound really inconsistent, don't you?
You just flip that narrative, but that's fine. I actually do think that a bit of a pit is, when Belinda Bencic was relentlessly hounded with mum questions. That was quite awkward in press too. Like when Wimbledon put up that thing saying last mum standing, and that the player does not enjoy that, and they don't necessarily think that that's something they would want to be put out, not because she's not proud of being a mum, but because literally that's the only thing that people want to talk to her about, which is not necessarily what happens when you're in other professional environments. Obviously sport is physical, so there is that aspect of things, but that was quite a low light for me because it's a bit soul destroying really for her that you can play all this amazing tennis and people are asking like, how do you manage to like play with your kid as well as do a practice session? And she's like, that's what living life is for me now. It's my new normal. I also think a real pit was when I was like mid Plowman's on court 1 and I found out that you can't eat in media seats. We got an email and I looked around and was like, can they see me? Is it me bringing my packed lunch?
Cheese about to go into your mouth and you're like,
so I put it down immediately. And then ever since then I've just been telling Joel and Kim all of the sort of the rule breaks that I've seen when people have been having like sneaking a chocolate bar onto centre court to have a nibble of that. So that was definitely a pit, and I've got quite a lot of pits here, but my final one is that it was blooming hot at certain times. And there's not the most air on centre court or on court 1. So I do feel for the people who really, really did suffer from that. And a pit for me, you never want to see people carried off in stretchers or, matches being stopped because the conditions are not possible for people to be able to even function normally. So, I mean, that couldn't not be a pit for everybody.
Yeah, it just shows how intense things might be if these conditions occur every year. And, how can we adapt to that? Without going down an environmental route, let's now move on to pleasant surprise of the tournament. Joel, what was your pleasant surprise?
Well, I've got a couple, and one is related to the heat because I was just pleasantly surprised by how well air conditioned the media theatre was. It was almost like the coolest place, to kind of
It's
seek
like being in
refuge
Iceland,
from
wasn't
the
it?
heat.
Like in the
Yeah, it
frozen
was
food
lovely.
aisle.
It was lovely. So that was definitely a pleasant surprise for
And you
me.
were in shorts throughout, Joel. So
I was in
were
shorts
you
throughout.
were you
Yeah.
fine every day, no matter the weather?
Yeah, I was. And
Welcome relief then,
it
yes.
was welcome relief, exactly. I'd also say just generally how well I think the Brits did this Wimbledon. There was a lot of talk going in on how, the numbers of Brits that have qualified, particularly for the singles. And I think, when you have so many qualify, it sort of adds to that jeopardy of, oh my God, what happens if they all go out in round one? It could look actually really bad. But we actually had 10 Brits get to round two, and that was the joint best tally since 12 in 1976, and 7 British men. That was the best at any Grand Slam since Wimbledon 1997. So
That was good showing.
yeah. So, and you think of the success stories as well. I mean, with Soné Cartal, Cash and Glasspool in the men's doubles. Mimi Zhu and Hannah Klugman did really well in the juniors. So Alfie Hewitt. I mean, there's so many success stories across the 2 weeks. So I was just pleasantly surprised how the kind of the British kind of story, I think it was just consistent throughout the 2 weeks. And going back to when we were all growing up, that wasn't always that was more of a rarity than the given.
For sure. And at one point, I thought Kim was making up new Brits. She was like, I'm off to watch this play. And I'm like, I've never heard of that one. And she's
Is
like,
that Jack Pinnington Jones, Kim?
Yeah. And she was like,
Oh my gosh, I've forgotten about Jack Pinnington Jones.
yes, you loved that one.
I take it back. His first round win against the player I can't remember. That was one of my highlights.
Yeah, I mean,
so
good you
good,
remembered the name of the
about
player.
it.
Yeah, and the match. Maybe that was your best match, and it wasn't
dear.
the six love bagel. But I mean,
Echeverry. It was Echeverry.
Oh, it was Echeverry.
Yes.
That is true.
Oh.
Indeed. Right, Kim, redeem yourself.
My pleasant surprise. Well, Cash and Glassball winning the
Brits.
men's doubles, just continuing the British men's doubles success here. But obviously, they're the first all British pair for ridiculous amount of time to win. So fabulous. They did the Queen's, Eastbourne, Wimbledon treble. But I think for me, realizing how nice pasta with strawberries is as a dish, thanks to Swiatek and it coming out in press, it's gone a bit viral now, and it's really quite nice. So that's my pleasant, unexpected moment. I think I've had it twice this weekend. So
twice in 2 days.
I know.
We also consumed. I consumed that dish after having a full pizza. I went for the strawberry pasta as a pudding.
Double carbs.
I think I thought it was a dessert, Kim. So maybe that's why it's not my pleasant surprise, because I was rather full after that, especially because we did actually get through quite a bit on the podcast. So do listen to that episode if you would like to. I would say that my pleasant surprise that I spent more time on the hill this year and absolutely loved it. I think the vibe was really good there. I think the Brits going through and having lots of exciting matches made that really enjoyable. So I enjoyed that. I had a couple of pims up there, and I didn't do that last year. I think it was all work and no play. So that was particularly enjoyable. And I also think it was actually wonderful, having a sponsor this Wimbledon. That was a pleasant surprise in the sense that, it was such a nice addition that we were able to pop to the Babolat booth. It feels like we were almost working with them on this together. So that was great fun. We got to meet Rafa, Kim, get you that special picture.
He trod on my foot.
That's actually your pit that Rafa trod on your foot.
Yeah, rude.
Won't be framing that one. But no, that was lovely. And such a welcome addition to the Tennis Weekly Wimbledon experience.
Yes, and we very much look forward to it all happening in 2026. So, listeners, if you've never been before, obviously the main way of getting tickets is through the public ballot. If you'd like to attend Wimbledon, get tickets that way, you do need to join My Wimbledon to be the first to hear about the public ballot for the Championships 2026. Ballot tends to close around September. So, yeah, make sure you don't miss out. Go on to wimbledon.com. Google My Wimbledon, find out how to join up to that so you can enter the ballot. There's also tons of advice on there about how to get tickets, what to do around the grounds. We also have a special episode on just that. So we'll link to that in the description as well. So you can hear our tips, which I think we recorded a while back, but they should still be completely relevant.
We'll double check, so take it with a pinch of salt. I think the ticket resale has moved. So anyone listening to this, please ignore ticket resale. It's now right by the main entrance, not at the top of the hill.
That was actually an improvement.
It was.
Another pleasant surprise. Yeah, Wimbledon's been so positive this year, and I feel like it's only getting more popular and more popular as the kind of brand identity of Wimbledon builds, and they're really taking on board, I think, a lot of fan and attendee feedback for sure. So yeah, do enter the public ballot to have your chance to get some tickets.
Well, we're going to end our Wimbledon wrap-up episode there. One final massive thank you to Babolat, our sponsor for our Wimbledon coverage. Honestly, they have been absolutely fantastic with supporting us, providing prizes for our listeners as well. So thank you very much, Babolat, for being part of the Tennis Weekly family over the last couple of weeks. We also love to thank all of our listeners who have supported us, who have listened to us, who have followed us on social media.
15 episodes now, Joel.
All 15 episodes. It has been an experience. And yeah, we will keep doing these as long as you keep kind of sharing that love with us. And we've certainly kind of felt that over the last couple of weeks. We're going to wrap up, though, our Wimbledon wrap-up episode there, brought to you by Babolat at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action as we head into the North American hardcourt swing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected with us on social media. You'll see all the clips we posted from Wimbledon, so you can relive some of those memories. And if you do want more of a fix, I'm actually heading to Boston next week for a 250. The lineup is looking interesting. We've got some Argentinians at work. Producer Alina will be joining me for that. So check out our content on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, and Threads. The handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And the mailbag is back. So Wimbledon mailbag, very much appreciated going into the hardcourt swing. Or if you have a question about anything we've said today, all throughout the 2 weeks, then do email us tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next time for another tour catch-up. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.